How you show up as a leader is your reputation. We also think of it as your character or the parts of you that make you you. And sometimes we think as nonprofit leaders that we can't impact what people think about us, and our reputation just is what it is because we're stuck where we are. Not entirely true. You can and should choose how you show up and how you impact the people around you so that you create the environment and the engagement that you're looking for with your team. Today, we're diving into the third of the Courage to Lead Different conversations that I had with Kimberley McKenzie, and we're talking all things character. Let's dive in.
Have you ever worked for someone who made you feel small and unsafe and constantly on edge? You probably couldn't describe their character, but you sure felt the lack of it. Today, we're going to dig into character-driven leadership, what it is, and why it matters. I'm Kimberley McKenzie. I work with teams and organizations to help them find their flow and get aligned around their purpose and their values. And I'm here with my friend Kathy Archer.
Hey, good morning, Kimberly. I am excited to talk about character as I wrote the book on character-driven leadership, and I'm super excited to dive into what it means today. I help women leaders who are overwhelmed and feeling like they are drowning in their work, full of self-doubt and carrying that load all themselves. And so I help them build their confidence, set some boundaries, and take back control of their leadership and life. And part of the reason why you and I need to do the work we do is because women aren't feeling confident. They're not feeling aligned. They're stepping into leadership or have been in leadership for a while. And you and I were talking about it yesterday. There's a friction or there's a tension or there's something that's icky.
Mm.
And we came up with a whole bunch of words that describe what it's like when you're not feeling aligned as a leader, and that experience of it could be a toxic leader. It could be somebody who's just bitchy or cranky or bitter. What are some other words that describe the leaders that we don't want?
Unpredictable. We feel small around them. We won't take risks around them.
Yeah, we talk about psychological safety, and we take training for psychological safety, and we say we have a psychologically safe workspace. But if you're not comfortable, I posted just a simple video yesterday about um, sometimes if your staff meetings aren't running as effectively as you like, you could do an anonymous Google form to get some feedback. And somebody said, well, if you need to do an anonymous form, there's a problem. Exactly.
Yes. That's right. People don't feel safe saying what they really think. And when people don't feel like they can say what they really think, you never get to the root of any of the tension or friction, and you just can't deliver the results that you need to as a team.
No, no. And that's often what happens. I don't know if I have this. Oh, I don't have my bookmarked copy. But I was thinking, when we talk about character, here's some, okay. So here's some things to think about. Just answer, maybe not the word I use, but in the spirit of it. My boss has a reputation for,
Being an asshole.
there you go. My board chair is known for,
Tirades.
you can always count on the head of HR too.
Complain, bring us into the office, negotiate,
The employee is famous for,
crying.
there you go. Flying off the handle at meetings, not letting people speak, interrupting, being patient,
We didn't even
inspiring the
rehearse that.
team.
We didn't
Yeah.
even rehearse that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about character, we're talking about those things. Are you late? Do you swear? Are you decisive or wishy-washy? How do you share hard messages? When something exciting happens, how do people expect you to respond? Those are all things around character.
I love what you said because the when we got together to talk about today, I had certain assumptions of what I interpreted character as, and I had values and character as the same thing. But you actually, even though I'd read your book and I should know better, you took me deeper into thinking about. Can you tell us about what you said, the bottom, people
Yeah.
notice the bottom? What was that?
Okay. So our character is our reputation. It's what people think about us. And we have this sort of vision or view of what we want to be, what we aspire to be as a leader. I call that your aspirational vision. I am a caring leader. I am compassionate. I am available. I create an engaged team. I create a psychologically safe work environment. We have this beautiful vision. That's your ceiling. That's where we aim for. But our floor is what people experience on a day to day. Are you
Mm.
actually compassionate all the time? Are you available? I used to say to my staff, I'm available for you, I'm here for you. But when it takes you days to respond to an email, or you're never in the office, or when you are, you're on your computer and you're ignoring people, you're not available. So
Yeah.
that's what people see. People judge you by what they experience and how you make them feel. They judge you by your conduct. So your behaviors or non-behaviors, I'm here for you, but no response, makes people think something about you. So your character is often what people are saying after the meeting about you with their peers at Smoker's Corner. You know,
Mhm.
when they're talking to their husband or partner at the end of the day and they're like, "Rah, rah, rah, rah," that's your character. What are they saying about you? And the problem is, A, we don't intentionally create that aspirational vision of what we want to be, but B, we don't think about how to get there. We're not
Mm.
intentional as nonprofit leaders in every other sector around the world, probably. We are so busy dealing with crisis, drama, fires. We never slow down and think about how we're leading.
It's the the hustle culture and the poverty mindset, and we never have enough, and we don't have time. And so, we talked last week about the power of the leadership pause. By taking time to pause as a leader and really ask yourself if your actions are aligned with the kind of leader you hope to be or hope to be remembered as.
Yes, because we talked in our first session, we talked about those three mistakes that we've made.
Hmm.
So we've been trying to lead like men. We've been trying to like burn the candle at both ends and not getting anywhere. And then we missed that actually defining our values and figuring out what they are. So our character, building our character and being that character-driven leadership is part values, but it's
Hmm.
also part ethics, morals, what hills you're going to die on. All of those things create the way you show up, your behavior, your actions, which again is your conduct, which people are judging you by. And
Oh,
that's go.
Kat, you told me, forgive me if if there's no way to tell this and stay confidential, then by all means, please don't. But when we were planning this, you talked about a client of yours who really had her character challenged by HR and her boss, and she had to make a choice that was hard. Are you able
Yes,
to
yes,
tell
yes,
us
yes,
that
yes.
story?
Oh, yes, this was a good one. So there was a situation where the organization was probably struggling financially and had to do some restructuring. And she was told by senior leaders that she needed to let this particular person go and that they would be letting this particular person go on whatever, Thursday or something. And this was like Tuesday or Wednesday. And she's like, well, can I let them know? And they're like, no, we'll just tell them at this. I mean, you all know what like an HR meeting is like, right? We're going to
Yeah,
call you in, we're going to sit you down, we're going to tell you the thing, lay it
yeah.
out. Very cold, very uncaring. Um,
No, 3 o'clock on a Friday call to go to
no,
the
no, no,
HR
no.
office is good news.
Never,
That's never
never.
good
And
news.
this person had worked for the organization for many years. And so she sat with that. And when we were talking at the beginning about there's this friction or this rub, this is how you know you're unaligned and maybe your moral compass is going ding, 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 something's wrong here.
Mhm,
Um, that's not the way I treat people. That's
mhm,
not respectful. I value respect. I appreciate honesty and transparency. I want to treat people with compassion and kindness and grace. If those are the words that and the way you want to live, that doesn't align. And so she felt this friction. And she finally was like, I'm just gonna let them know. Let the chips fall where they may. And
mhm.
it felt so much better on her heart, right?
Mhm.
She was like, I just gave them a quick call, told them what to expect, so they weren't, hit by the bus in the middle of that meeting. And that's what we're talking about when we talked last week about the power of the pause.
Mhm.
Slowing down to go, what's happening? Like, I feel
Mhm.
like shit right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Something's not right. And if you keep doing that, we have what's called moral muteness, where we let wrongdoings continue to go on unchecked. See that
Yeah.
in
Oh, like of course I'm thinking about certain
politics?
countries with certain presidents and certain opposition leaders
Yes.
who, hey, so
And it's called ethical fading. So I have this set of ethics and values and guidelines, and I'm like, oh, that's not too far. That's not too far. That's not too far. And all of a sudden, and this is what happens as leaders, we come into these positions and we're like, oh, I'm going to be this amazing leader. And then it's like, okay, well, I missed my one-to-one that week. Well, now I canceled my one-to-one 3 weeks in a row. Now I haven't
yeah,
had a one-to-one in 6 months.
yeah,
It just fades gradually, and that's
yeah.
what goes on.
Well, and also, we talk about, I was telling you about a client of mine who was received a new job in a leadership organization, and they came into a coaching relationship with me because they said, I really want to be a good boss, but I've never had one, so I don't know how.
Yeah.
And that was an opportunity for them to really think about, those sessions were about what do you want to be remembered for? How do you want your staff to treat you? What actions do you need to take to earn respect and be available and be seen as a support person? All of that work is work, and particularly in the charitable space, I have to say, because we have a lot of people who are doers and fundraisers, and then because they excel at that, they get promoted into a leadership position with absolutely no training whatsoever on how to do it.
And
And
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, and no training on how to build the relationships in leadership.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not, because like you said, we do really good at fundraising, or we do really good at working with people with disabilities, or we're really good at running the group home, or whatever the nonprofit is. But leadership is really about relationships.
It's a different game. It's a different game. And I have a number of thoughts that are coming up for me at the same time. And I want to talk about this concept of what professional is or what professionalism looks like, or, trying to be a professional leader at work as opposed to, or it's not even, but now I think we're seeing a trend toward more human forward leadership. Sharing our humanity actually makes us more relatable as a leader. So that's kind of that point. But yesterday when you had said to me, well, think about leaders you admire, as you were trying to get me to stretch my brain around the idea of character versus values. And you mentioned Ted Lasso, who I love for all sorts of reasons. And then I started writing down Bill Gates, uh, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, as not somebody I admire, but just an example of the kind of leader I would never want to be. And we had this aha moment
Where we went, where are the women?
where, yeah, here we are in our first session. We talked about women setting a lot of their strengths aside to act like dudes. And yet the leaders that we looked up to immediately were all white dudes. So then we had to stretch ourselves to think, okay, who are the female leaders? Michelle Obama, Brené Brown, Maya Angelou, who then we realized are not actually leaders. So then we had to stretch even further.
Well, not people leaders. They are definitely
They're
leaders.
leaders, right,
Yes,
right,
but
right.
not
But
people leaders.
they're not leading. Well, they are probably leading teams in their own businesses, but I think people know what we're getting at here.
Well,
So then we have to go even further, right? And
yeah,
who did we come up
I
with?
Googled it this morning again just because it was still bothering me. And I got a list of, 15 women leaders. And some of them were like, I don't know, not Ford, but like car dealer leaders. Cheryl from Facebook. She wrote Lean In,
Hamburg.
Sandberg. My question is, why don't we automatically think that? And it's back to the conversation we had earlier in our first session around, because we've been so preached to lead in a certain way that even when these leaders show up, we're still circling back to men's names when we talk about leadership. That
Mhm.
even though these leaders demonstrate, we talked about Jacinda from New Zealand, uh, who
Mhm.
who nursed while she was in leadership, like with her
Yeah.
baby on her lap.
Yeah,
Like
I thought that was great.
it was just wild, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Back to your question about what's professional or not professional. Like she set
Yeah.
a new bar, right?
Yeah.
In many, many ways. But our automatic, hardwired way of thinking about leadership is not men versus women, but masculine versus feminine traits. So when we're talking about character and character traits, as women, we have a different set of character traits by nature. And we've been taught that those are not strong leadership traits, compassion, empathy, right? That those are
Mhm.
okay, nice to have once in a while, but you can't lead with those. And
Yeah.
what we're saying is, but maybe you can, and maybe there's power in that. And so authentic leadership is leading with your values, your ethics, your morals, and it leads to that character-driven leadership. But you have to sit down and decide what kind of a leader you want to be. There's no one right package of traits. There's no
Mhm.
one right style. What's right is your style, and that's sitting down going, what are my values? So
Mhm.
Kimberly and I both value family, but we
We do.
both know, we've had lots of conversations, we have different versions of what that value means. And certainly your value of family changes when your kids are younger versus older. If we both value honesty, okay, but if the teller forgets the stuff under the cart at the grocery store, will you say anything? I
Well,
certainly
okay.
will.
Well, to be honest, I have walked out with a sack of potatoes before. That's true. But let me use this as an example. Um, I do value family, and none of them are ever gonna watch this, so I think I'm safe. But I do value family, and we just had Mother's Day in Canada last weekend. And I have finally gotten to the point where I can tell my adult children that all I want for Mother's Day is for them to send me flowers and leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do what I
What
want
I
to
want
do.
to do.
And
Yeah.
it's not cooking for you or making you happy or making your day. It's for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and that, that comes back to, when you're in the workplace and you're asked to travel and okay, but I have to travel over Mother's Day. Some people are like, I don't care, that's good. I can go to the spa on Mother's Day and enjoy myself. The other person might say, no, I need to be at home on Mother's Day. That's really important to me. And so
Mhm.
defining that value, defining what teamwork means to you. Does that, like if it's important to you, what does it mean? So that we can make value-driven decisions. That's we talk about values driven leadership. I'm talking about character driven leadership. It all comes back to those decisions. And if you're not slowing down, going, okay, but what is the decision? What is the two sides of the coin? When we talked about my client, she had to go, do I tell her or don't I tell her? And if I
Mhm.
tell her, I'm breaching, what my boss told me. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm being disrespectful, or I'm not telling my boss, so I'm lying, or I'm not telling her, so I'm lying. Like people have all these thoughts in their heads, and you got to break that down.
Well, and the beautiful thing about this self-awareness and the reflection and the intentionality around it is that it really does act as a compass when you get
Yes.
sideswiped or when things come up, when you know who you are and you know what you believe in, you can handle anything. And that provides, I think, comfort and safety for your team to know that the ship is a safe place to be.
Mhm. I love what you said. I know who I am. That's key. And a lot of us don't know who I am, right? Like we can't, again, we're trying to be someone we're not. Um, and so we have to look at who am I? How am I showing up? Well, I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about vaxxers and non-vaxxers. That's an identity. And so when we're talking about our aspirational identity, how do I identify? What's the hills I'll die on? Somebody might know that I will do everything in my power because fairness is number one for me. Like I
Mhm.
have to make sure everything is fair. And that might get you into trouble as a leader sometimes. So when you've got two people that have the opportunity to go to training, and only dollars for one? How do you be fair? Right? And that might keep you awake at night. Well, they've been here longer, yeah, but they work harder. But and you just go around and round and round, and you just can work yourself up into a tizzy until you can pause, back to the pause again, and go, okay, what's really going on here? Oh yeah, I can't make it equal. Okay, so how do I make it fair, not equal? And when you
Well, that's a
that
really
self,
important distinction. Yeah, that
yeah.
equal isn't always fair.
No, no. But because we're not slowing down, giving ourselves space to think about that decision, can become indecisive because we're not making a decision. And then people are like, well, she can never make a bloody decision. She's always like you can never
How
get
can
an
I
answer
follow
out of
her?
her.
Well, I think I might have said this because this is the stickiest, funniest little quote somebody said to me at a conference last week was if if you're in a leadership role and you look behind you and nobody's following, you're just going for a walk.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. And so if you want to create that following, that engagement where people are actually engaged, going, hey, where's she going? What's she doing? Oh, I want to be with her.
Mhm.
You have to create that sense of excitement and energy and positivity and hope or curiosity. And instead, again, if we don't slow down and be intentional about this, we're just creating chaos. We're creating toxicity. We're just crisis driven, whacking the moles, and we're not
Whack-a-mole.
creating
Yeah. We talk about hamster wheels. I love the whack-a-mole
that.
analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good one. Mhm.
Well, and it
So,
is. It's fires, crisis, drama, right? It's just
mhm.
emails, meetings. That's all we're doing all day.
Mhm.
And we don't slow down and go, hey, let me think about that more clearly.
So I love the distinction that values and character are both important and not the same. So
Right.
thank you for teaching me that. I love that values and character can be your guidepost or your compass to help you when you are working in a dynamic environment. And I love that um, as women, leveraging our strengths and really knowing what our strengths are and using them in our leadership role instead of setting those things aside and trying to be something that we're not is beautiful. So, yeah.
Yeah, strengths in the character traits, but also our foundational strengths. I'm not a spreadsheety kind of gal. I can do
Mhm.
it. Some
Mhm.
people love spreadsheets. Like they dive in and they play with that data all day. Not
Right.
me. Figure out what your strengths are. I love to read and learn. So obviously that's what I do all day and I write books. Um, so your strengths are a part of it. Your values are a part of it. What is important to you and why it's important. Your ethics and your morals are what's right and wrong. So values, what's important, ethics and morals, what's right and wrong. It's wrong to let somebody go in that way. As fundraisers, you have a code of ethics. As
Right.
coaches, we have a code of ethics. Social workers
Right.
have a code of ethics. Do you have your own personal code of ethics? What's right
Mhm.
and wrong for you? What's the way that you will do it?
Mhm.
And what feels off? So we have this often unconscious set of rules, and then we have our behavior. If they're aligned, we feel good. The minute these rules that we have for ourselves start to vary with what we're doing, there's this big gap. I can't make a V. We get this V going, right? Where we're not aligned. And so we have to go, the minute I feel the ickiness, um,
Mhm.
tightening heart, you just cranky and irritated, ready to cry, ready to punch somebody, just frustrated. It's a sign that you're not aligned with your values, your ethics, your morals.
That really resonates with me because there is, as a deep feeler, I can always tell in when my heart is heavy that I've done something that I need to fix or talk to somebody about or um, reconfigure because something's just not right. And that kind of intuition, well, that's one of my strengths is my intuition. So listening to that and not ignoring it is really, really important.
Well, and
Um,
we've been taught to ignore it.
right.
Shut
Yeah.
your emotions off. They don't belong in the boardroom. You're
Yeah.
too emotional. You're crazy. Whatever the
You
words
know, yeah, there's a lot more discussion and I love it around menopause at work. And I wrote on my blog on my website, kimberlymckenzie.ca, and I think it's on my LinkedIn profile as well, is an article around normalizing the menopause experience and talking about that at work. Because holy smokes, if I was still commuting 4 hours a day to there, to back while going through menopause, I would not be able to do it. I physically would not have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so normalizing, I don't know what that has to do with character-driven leadership, but I think it has to do with being our authentic selves at work
Well,
and creating space for conversations.
yeah. So back to emotions. If our emotions are our guides and we're told to shut them off, and I'm experiencing postpartum, I'm struggling with my mental health,
Going through divorce.
I'm going
Uh,
through a divorce, right? My
yeah,
emotions are a mess. But
yeah,
irregardless of what's going on in your personal life, and we all know there's something going on in your personal life, everybody has something. You've got all of these emotions at work too.
right.
And when we try and just shut those all off, well, Brene Brown says when you try to zone out and numb any of the emotions, good or the bad ones, you numb out the good ones as well. So what's the thing we want most as women leaders? To feel content, to just simply enjoy our work. Contentment, joy, trust. Those are emotions. They are feelings. And if we're shutting off the bitchy, the angry, the frustrated, the depressed, we're also shutting off the ability to go, hey guys, we did a really good job here. I'm so excited. Or a sense of hope, like, oh my goodness, this is hard, but man, we're going to create some hope. We
Yeah.
need to bring emotions in. And
Hmm.
it's important then, like you say, when something's off, to rather than push it down, this is called emotional intelligence, to rather than push it down, to go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What is the emotion telling me?
Take a moment and go, okay, my body feels tight or my feelings are unsettled.
My head
And
is
I
about to
think,
explode.
right, I think, yeah, I think that even character-driven leadership is taking it even one step further and sharing that with your team. And that's why I love anyone who has worked with me or been in a room facilitated with me or has been in my family knows I love the rosebud thorn exercise. And I love it because when you model that and you create space for your team to talk about what's great, what's not great, what they're looking forward to, then you model that as a leader. And then there's an opportunity for your staff to go, you know what? I got a speeding ticket today on the way to work. And I just can't imagine telling my husband that I got a speeding ticket. He's going to be so mad at me. And then I'm going to have this big fight when I get home. Now, first of all, not that a situation like that has ever happened to me, but secondly, um, that carrying around that kind of stress uh,
Yeah.
can really get in the way of productivity.
Yeah.
And the whole day's a write-off.
Well, okay. And so this reminds me of what we were talking about yesterday, because if you don't say that, you might snap at somebody.
Mm.
Now, so your vision of the leader you want to be is your ceiling. Your character or your reputation is your floor. How low will you go, right? So snapping at somebody because you got a speeding ticket and you're worried, like you're worked up, and you snap
Life
at
is
somebody.
happening. Yeah.
Life is happening. That's can be here if you let it sort of sit there and simmer and not deal with it. But if you circle back the next day and go, you know what, I was kind of rude to you, and uh, I got the speeding ticket. I was worked up about it. Not saying that makes my behavior okay, but I just want to apologize for it. Your
Yeah.
floor kind of moved up a little bit. You're not
Yeah.
quite as a bad boss as somebody might have said you were yesterday.
Right.
Um, and so it's those intentional choices about none of us are perfect, but we are measured, we are judged by our worst days. That's the
Okay. That's the biggest thing. We are measured and judged by our worst days.
You can be the nicest, most beautiful, amazing leader and bake cookies for everybody and have wonderful staff meetings. But when the shit hits the fan, if you yell, snap, swear, rude, that's what people are going to say. She's lovely until,
Be
right?
careful about,
Be
yeah.
careful about getting on her bad side. You think, right?
Yeah, oh gosh, I wish this 56-year-old version of me could go back and redo some of the 45-year-old versions of me or the
Me too.
40-year-old versions of me.
Or
Like
the
I just
30.
cringe. And I guess that's why we're doing this, right? Because we would
Yeah.
love the path to be a little bit easier for those who are following us in leadership roles. So, character-driven leadership is about values, it's about ethics, it's about what else?
Values, ethics, morals, leading with your strengths, gifts, and talents, right?
Leading with your strengths, gifts,
Yeah.
talents. Yeah.
Identify who you are, what your identity is, what you stand for, what hills you'll die on, what's important to you, why it's important to you, what's right and wrong. And this takes work. By the way, anybody watching now or on the replay, if you have questions, pop them in because there's a little bit of delay, but we can answer questions. Um, this takes work, which again, I'm going to circle back to why we covered the pause. You
Mhm.
need to slow down once in a while and do this work.
Mhm.
You're not going to define a value, write a code of ethics, figure out what hills you're going to die on the fly when you're whacking moles. You need to
Right.
slow down. Self-reflection is key to this development,
Yeah.
and it's key to being a good leader.
And that I think is one of the biggest takeaways for this entire series, Kathy, is the concept that we had woo-woo and personal stuff over here, and then we've got
Yeah.
professional stuff over here. But really, you need to do the work and to constantly put it into practice, which is going to bring us to next week.
Well, yes. Next week, our topic is, let me look at it. Leadership is a loop, not a ladder. So we're going to talk about the continuous ebb and flow of leadership and how to create this ongoing cycle of growth and development, working with your people. Um, Self-reflection really is key, but you need to slow down, do the self-reflective work, but then you also need to have that courage to come back and have some of those conversations, like going back to the person you snapped at yesterday and saying, I'm sorry I did that. Or
The humility. Mhm.
yeah, or letting somebody go, or there's a lot of things that need to happen that aren't always easy. But you said it a second ago. Leadership is a personal development journey as much as it is a professional development. They're not separate. They are one and the same, very much intermixed. And it's about growing yourself so that you can grow your leadership and your team.
Yeah. And it's fun. It can be fun.
Yeah.
Like this is the beautiful thing when you get to that state of flow, when you get to that with yourself and with your team, then you minimize your risk of burnout. You increase your productivity. You start to get energized by the work that you're doing because everything can be a little bit easier once you've done this stuff.
I was reading your article this morning on flow, thinking about that. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote the book on flow. And it always gets me back to thinking about, you're at the top of the ski hill and like you're in the Olympic race. You're not thinking about the grocery list. You're not thinking about what time the kid's going to go to bed at night. You're not thinking about your to-do list. And man, if we could figure out a way to get into that sense of flow and leadership more, where in your team meeting and things are flowing and going along, or you're writing the proposal and it's just going well. But we're so disjointed that we're
Mhm.
not getting into that sense of flow. And so we got to do the work to get there.
That is why this work is important because the reality of the world at the moment is that we are living in a state of permacrisis, unlike anything we have ever witnessed in history. And as leaders, it's incumbent on us to keep ourselves mentally, physically, and socially fit so that we can keep our team mentally, physically, and socially fit. We absolutely must take care of each other. And if we do that for ourselves and for our communities, it will spread. And I truly, truly believe that. And I'm so grateful for these conversations with you.
I am too. We'll see everybody next week, and we're going to talk about that leadership loop.